I believe it's 5:30. It's time for us to begin our meeting. This is the regular meeting, Greenwood County Council, Tuesday, November the 16th, 2021. Council has been in executive session since 4 o'clock this afternoon, and we do not have anything to report out of executive session. So that being the case, I will entertain a motion that we exit executive session.
So moved.
That motion, Mr. Templeton, second by Ms. Childs. All in favor will say aye. Aye. And it is so ordered. It is good to see you tonight. We welcome you to this council meeting. We appreciate your presence, your interest in your community government, and hope that you learned something tonight. If I were a school teacher, I'd say, go home and write me an essay about this meeting. And then give it to the manager and let him ponder it. Anyway, it's good to see you tonight. Thank you. At this time, Ms. Melissa Spencer will deliver our invocation. We will continue to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Spencer?
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, on behalf of the County Manager, Council, and staff, I pray for the agenda set before us. May your grace and mercy be a strong presence tonight. May we use wisdom to govern amid conflict and interests and issues of our times. I ask that you continue to lead, guide, and protect our law enforcement, EMS, firemen, and medical professionals. Give us a sense of the welfare and true needs of our people, a keen thirst for justice and righteousness, confidence in what is good and fitting, and the ability to work together in harmony even when there is honest disagreement. Help us, Lord, to remember that the primary role of our leadership role is to serve, and the primary goal is for the sake of those we serve. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Amen. Join me in the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Council, you have received copies of the minutes from our last meeting, November 2nd. If there are no additions, corrections, then I'll entertain a motion that we approve the minutes from our November 2nd meeting. Ms. Childs makes a motion. Do I have a second? Second. Martin, excuse me. Mr. Allison, you got a second? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. It's so ordered. We're delighted tonight to have a special presentation from Ms. Kelly McWhorter, the Executive Director of Greenwood Regional Visitors and Tourism Bureau. And we look forward to hearing her report. And Kelly, we welcome you to our county council tonight. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of council. It's a pleasure being here with you tonight. I come bringing an update for you from 2021. We've had a really good year, and I'm excited to share some neat things and accomplishments that we've been able to do over the last few months. As we look at the marketing efforts of Discover Greenwood, we executed 3 successful campaigns in partnership with our agency of record, Design Sensory. The first one was in the winter months. It was a food tour that was geared towards providing the hospitality industry some much needed support from our local and our visitors, but our local citizens and our visitors alike. And it was hugely successful, so much so that we're going to do another one in early 2022, just like that one. You might recall that we executed a recovery campaign amidst all of the COVID restrictions called Ready to Ride, and it was to encourage road trips and safe travel, and it has been hugely successful throughout the year, and so we have been marketing that through digital platforms mostly. And now, as we approach the holiday season, we are kicking off a campaign called Jingle and Mingle. All of the events for Greenwood are on greenwoodholiday.com, and Jingle and Mingle is the theme this year for the holiday campaign that we're doing, so I would encourage each of you to take a look at that site. Also, with advertising, the majority of our budget is dedicated to digital and social advertising, but there are times where we feel like print advertising is most appropriate. One of those publications is the Master's edition of the Augusta magazine. Clearly, us being in the backyard of Augusta, it makes good sense to have a strong presence in that publication. So we advertised in that. We also participated in the Aiken Standards 101 Things to Do in South Carolina with a print ad. And then the Southern Edge ad, which is at the bottom of the slide, is that is a publication of the National Heritage Corridor for the state. And we are very strong partners with them. They have provided a number of different grants to our community, and we like to support that publication as well. Our year in review consists of tons of media leads, travel writer visits, and I hate that some of this information didn't appear, but the face that you see is one of a travel writer who had never seen the topiary greenhouse before. And she walked in, and I did not pay her to make that face. She made that face on her own. And I had to capture that photo, but she gave us some really, really great exposure through Greenville Online Magazine, Greenville Magazine. She's a super writer, helped us promote the Festival of Flowers. We also had some promotion of the Festival of Discovery. We are now we're about to host more travel writers that will focus on girlfriend getaways and romantic getaways. So as time progresses, we are slowly getting more travel writers in throughout the year. We receive most of those leads from a directive of the South Carolina Parks, Recreation, and Tourism. They line up travel writers with different tourism districts in the state. We are a part of the Old 96 Tourism District. So we work in partnership with them and host many travel writers throughout the year. Another initiative that's fairly new to marketing but has been hugely successful is contracting of influencers who are social media, I would say bloggers, but they have huge following. This year we contracted with Jamie Huffman, who her website is charlestonblonde.com, I believe. She was contracted for 8 Instagram stories and 1 static post, but posted 47 stories and 2 static posts. And as you can see from the statistics above, she was quite popular with her posts and engagements. And I'd like to think that our efforts and our contracting with her brought more visitation after that, because she came right as the Festival of Flowers was beginning and focused on a lot of different things. She took a tour of Lake Greenwood. She had lunch at Breaking the Lake. She went to the Mays site. So she did a lot of different things and wrote about just about all of them. Some of the events that we hosted were the Leadership South Carolina class in January of this year. For the second year, Ski Greenwood returned, and that was, again, a very successful event. Sadly, they're not going to have Greenwood host for the 3rd year. I was hoping they would. They're going to be going to Tuscaloosa, Alabama. But hopefully we'll get them back in the future. Our 3rd American Junior Golf Tournament was held in August, and we signed a contract just about a month ago for them to come for 3 more years. So we will be hosting that again in August at the Links at Stony Point. And then a unique opportunity to host the South Carolina Welcome Center Conference. Every counselor and manager from every Welcome Center in South Carolina was in Greenwood, South Carolina for 3 days. And not only did we get exposure for that group, we had a different group come in of attractions and hotels from across the state as they attended a marketplace expo that they held, which there's a picture of that on this slide. So we had kind of a double whammy with attendance and exposure, and we were grateful to have the Welcome Centers come to Greenwood. Our Crappie USA tournament was successful. I'm going to get into the exact numbers of that in just a minute, but it was held in early October, and we had a very good tournament with that. Many of you may know that we had some staffing changes during 2020. We lost both our marketing coordinator, Ashlyn Lynch, and our sales director, Lindsay Burns, and we're slowly rebuilding our staffing. We hired a marketing coordinator early in this year, Leanne Hunt. She's done a great job. She has a very strong background in social media, and she's done fantastic with that and is expanding her role into other areas right now. We also worked with an intern. Her name is Deja Warren, and she has fallen in love with working with events and the visitors. So she's been a huge asset for us throughout the year. We're a little sad. She's a senior now, so she probably will be graduating in May, but she's been wonderful for us. So speaking of staffing, we do have some challenges. We share front desk responsibilities with the Arts Center, and many times the Arts Center and as well as us, we depend on volunteers, we depend on interns, whoever we can to staff our part of the front desk responsibilities when we can, and sometimes that's very challenging with schedules and travel, and so we are going to be working with the Arts Center on a joint front desk staff person, and this is really going to enable both of us to have access to each other's information and have a consistent presence at the front desk, and I think it's going to work well for both of our organizations. Obviously, we still would love to have a little bit more availability and accessibility to some of the facilities and some of the venues for meetings and sporting events, and we're working towards that. I think the improvements that are being made to the Will Banks Complex is going to allow our team to do a better job of marketing and selling with the improvements that we're going to make. And so we're working on those relationships right now and trying to increase our availability so we can book more business with sports. In other news, we've got conceptual plans for the Powell's building to renovate it into a new visitor and sales center. I'm going to show you a few little sneak peeks of that. And I mean, obviously, a full service hotel conference center would help us with meetings and events, but right now we're doing pretty good. So these are just a few photos from the design comps of the visitor center. You will see that the front entrance is, I think it's just a happy place to me. It looks like you would definitely want to go in and explore. We'll have a little bit of a retail corner where we'll sell Greenwood items, and obviously I love the reception area with the greenery in the background, but there's much more to that, and we are now in the phase of trying to figure out how much it's going to cost to make this happen. So hopefully I'll have a more specific update for you all in the future. This next chart is just really a look at our revenue. Please keep in mind that the 2021 figures are really through the third quarter and not through the end of the year. So we expect those numbers to rise just a little bit as we close out 2021. Clearly, I think we're having a very good year. I think we're in a real good recovery mode. I expect 2022 to be even better. One thing that affected us was the Masters tournament and their restrictions on patrons, which also restricted probably a little bit of the hotel traffic we normally see during Masters Week. So I'm hoping in April 2022, I'll be able to go around to hotels and welcome the Masters patrons that we have, as we have in the past. A little bit about figuring economic impact through our events, and I'm going to get into some total figures later, but these two events present a real clear picture of how many visitors we have, what kind of economic impact it presents. The golf tournament has been huge for us. In 2021, we had an economic impact of $150,592.40. But since it started in 2019, that economic impact is over $560,000, which is huge for Greenwood. And we're grateful for the support of the county. You've been supported through your hospitality tax grants every year, and we're grateful for that. And I wanted you to see the return on your investment. It's been pretty significant. Also with Crappie USA, as I mentioned to you before, fishing tournaments are pretty popular because we have such a huge asset with Lake Greenwood. We had 42 participants for the last tournament. The total number of net visitors is 80. That may be a little confusing, but what I've learned is that the anglers don't just come for the tournament. They'll come and spend 2 or 3 nights prior to the tournament and fish the lake to determine hotspots for the fishing. So we're actually getting more room nights than people think we are. So the direct spending amount for that tournament estimated at around $14,000, producing economic impact of $33,000. So we were happy to have them back in town. Just for clarification, I've gone over these numbers before. The economic impact numbers that I present are not those of the special events like the Festival of Flowers and the Festival of Discovery. They do their own economic impact statements. These are numbers that represent the events that we have recruited and serviced. So I still think for a recovery year, $650,000 is really very good, and we're optimistic that that number will grow in the future. While we're talking about economic impact, I received a piece of information I thought you might find interesting. The 96 National Historic Site in 2020 received 95,000 visitors during the year. The total visitor local spending was over $5.7 million. This is from the National Park Service, creating 84 local jobs and producing a $7.4 million economic impact. They also estimate that over 95% of that visitation is non-local visitor spending. So we have quite a gem in our backyard. And the National Park Service is planning to do some improvements to 96, and I wanted everybody to be aware that we really get a ton of visitation from that attraction. So what's coming up? We've got quite a big schedule for next year, and we're hoping to have a few more things to announce soon. Leadership South Carolina will return in January. Lander is hosting the Peach Belt Conference Softball Championship in May. Another thing that Lander is hosting in the winter months is a wrestling tournament that's going to have a good many teams from across the state. We expect that to be a huge event for hotel traffic. Main Street South Carolina will be hosting their annual conference in June, again with the American Junior Golf Association tournament in August. Also in August, we will host a session of the South Carolina Economic Development Institute. Even though the American Bloom National Symposium is in September of 23, that is the biggest conference we will ever host at this point. So we are already starting to plan for that conference. We will have over 250 American Bloom members come to Greenwood for a tour of our area. So we're excited about that. And obviously, the Visitor Center feasibility study is ongoing, and we're hoping, I know a lot of people have asked, but we would love to hopefully be in by the end of 2023. And I'm being conservative, but we all know how building projects can. So I think that's all. We've got one more, I'm sorry. Some of our goals include self-support to, we don't have enough photos and videos for our area, and they need updating, so we're continuing that. We will again work with influencers for the coming year, and we do a quarterly email blast that we will continue to do. I mentioned the food tour earlier. Our Greenwood Stories is a blog series. We will work on presenting a blog on history as well as accessible tourism, and more blogs will be developed through the year. Not sure if anyone's aware, but the South Carolina Red War Sesquicentennial is coming up. That's the 250th anniversary of our Revolutionary War history. So Greenwood will be working on a committee for that to help promote it, and obviously to help promote the significance of the Revolutionary War in our area. And as we move forward with Greenwood Together, we will continue to provide support for that organization as well. Happy to answer any questions if you don't have any.
Council?
I have one question, Chairman. Kelly, the Water Skiing Championship, when they relocated to Alabama, is that just a rotation, or did we
Yes.
lose it because of something in regard to venue?
No, it's a rotation, and they had been to Alabama before. So I think the important thing for us to keep in mind is that we've now gotten on the map for them.
Right.
So hopefully they'll come back.
Thank you.
I was interested in the Powell's building and making it a visitor center. Where's the funding for that going to be derived from?
Our budget, our reserve funds is very healthy, has a very healthy balance. So we're hoping to get some from reserves, some from grants, and hopefully some from hospitality tax funding. We're anxious to find out how much that's going to be.
I'm sure our treasurer can help you with that.
I'm sure she can. Thank y'all very
Any
much.
other questions? Thank you, Kelly. I
Appreciate
appreciate
it.
your hard work and your good work.
Thank you.
Is the board meeting in the morning? District board?
Yes, 9:30.
Thank you. All right, we move on to the next item on our agenda, which is public comment, and the clerk informs me we have no one signed up for public comment. Okay? And the next item is old business, and according to our agenda, we have no old business item. So therefore, that leads us to the next item, which is a public hearing. We will have a public hearing on the ordinance 2021-31, which is a request by Magnolia Place Special Tax District to dissolve. I'll need a motion to go into a public hearing from council.
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Templeton,
Second, Chairman.
second by Ms. Spencer. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Then we will enter a time of public hearing. And the public hearing will be conducted in this manner. We will be discussing the dissolution of the Magnolia Place Special Tax District. And the first invitees to speak will be those who would speak in favor of this resolution or ordinance. You would speak in favor of dissolving the special tax district. So I invite anyone here tonight who would like to speak in favor of this to please come to the podium, state your name, where you live, and make your comment. Please limit your comment to no more than 3 minutes, please. Who would like to speak in favor? All right, then I see no one speaking in favor. Anyone who would like to speak against dissolving the Magnolia Place Special Tax District, please come to the podium and state your name and where you live and make your comment, limiting it to 3 minutes, please. If you would like to speak against dissolving the Magnolia Place Special Tax District. Anyone? Hearing no one, seeing no.
And I know we have some Magnolia residents, out there. So either you're here for it or you're against it. Do you understand what he's saying? Because I know you're not just here to watch council. I know somebody got something to say, like you're not here by accident.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you.
You wish to speak, sir? Come forward. State your name and where you live, and are you speaking in favor or against?
Against.
Against, thank you.
Yes, my name is Robert Griffin, and I stay at 206 Magnolia Drive, Greenwood, South Carolina.
Might speak up just a little bit more, Mr. Griffin. Some of us on council have a hard time hearing sometimes.
Okay. You got my name. I
Right.
stay at 206 Magnolia Drive,
Thank you.
Greenwood, South Carolina. And like I said, I'm speaking against that tax. My wife and I have been staying, kids been staying out there for, I don't know, ever since 70 or 72. And, it's partly our fault. I'm not going to say that because we did not go to many community meetings. But, that's, in my mind, it didn't stop the committee from out there in Magnolia to drop, some kind of flyer or some kind of literature in our mailbox at least once a month or once a quarter, or even once every 6 months, to let us know, the ones who didn't attend the meetings, to let us know what was going on. And this special tax was created, and my wife and I just found out about it, within a year or so. When they came up saying they was running short of money, something had happened. I don't know all the details, but they got behind in the special tax and wanted a certain amount to catch it up. And anyway, we did have a meeting with our council, and we talked about this. And like I said, a lot of us was not pleased with it. The tax was good, but like this, pay for the street lights and other maintenance out there in Magnolia. But like I said, just the way it was taken, and like I said, part of my part, maybe if I had been going to the meeting, I could have spoke said what how I felt.
Yes.
But like I said, I was working, which, like I said, it's no excuse, but
Right.
I'm not trying to make any excuses, but at this point in time, we are against that, special district tax.
So you'd like to see it
Dissolved, right?
Okay, I'm just trying.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Mr. Simmons. That was my question.
Yeah.
You want to see it dissolved?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Simmons. Anyone else like to speak against it? For it? Then I'll entertain a motion now that we close the public hearing.
Still moving, Mr. Chairman.
Second, Chairman.
Motion by Mr. Allison, second by Mr. Templeton. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And now, council, what is your preference concerning ordinance 2021-31 to approve the request to dissolve the Magnolia Place Special Tax District?
I'm going to approve the request to dissolve the special tax district.
You're voting in favor of ordinance 21-31.
I'll second that, Chairman.
Got a second? Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
question I have is the funding or the funds that are available, what will be done with those funds?
Ms. Gorin, can you help us with that question?
The funds will continue to accumulate from the property tax bills because those bills have already been sent out. We will, upon third reading, stop the millage on any automobile taxes. And then the funds that are remaining to be collected will continue to be used on any appropriate expense, which at this time what's being submitted are utility bills for the street lights. So we'll continue to pay those until either the funds run out or 1 year from the time of the third reading. If the funds aren't used by that time, then it would be up to council to give those to an appropriate charitable organization. I feel sure that as long as the commissioners that are in place continue to bring us those bills, that those funds will get used up. Right now, they only have a couple of $100 on hand, but again, the taxes are just now starting to be paid for the property tax, so that fund will build up just a little bit, and then we'll use it as long as they submit the bills to us. We can't pay them if they aren't brought in.
Thank you.
Can I ask you a question? Any other questions? Are we ready to vote?
I have a question. Okay, since the special tax district is gonna be dissolved, and were we not paying the extra tax? And if we were, will that decrease?
The rate that's on there will stop on any automobiles that are taxed January forward. And then on your house property taxes, that will stop next year. Because your bills that have already gone out, those won't be changed. It will be for the ones next year.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Gordon. Are you ready to vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And it is so ordered. Thank you very much. And thank you, those of you, Mr. Griffin, for speaking. We appreciate your comments tonight. Thank you, sir. And you too, ma'am. Thank you. The next item of new business is consideration of contract from the Gordon Group for volunteer fire station at Morgan Road. Mr. Skinner.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Council. We have tonight to present to you and as well as in your packet, contract for the construction of our final volunteer fire station in the cattle profit sales tax. This one on Morgan Road in Hodges, South Carolina. You see the map. This will be the final of 6 that will cover 99.6% of occupied structures in the county, which would complete the goal for the fire master plan. The new site is located at 1312 Morgan Road. It's about a mile from Highway 178 North, which is right around the corner from Walt's hot dog stand, if you're familiar with the area. You can see the map here. It'll add 103 new structures to the fire coverage map. They're currently not covered. There's a Morgan Road, Bell Road, and the whole Shoals Junction area. See, we have the septic permit from DHEC, which was approved earlier this year. The site was cleared after y'all approved the land purchase this summer. It's about half an acre, a little over half an acre, so that's ready to go. We had the bid opening November 2nd. I mentioned it briefly at our last council meeting. We had 2 bids. The low bid was from the Gordon Group here in Greenwood, South Carolina. That was for $403,266. The second bid was $470,000. That was from a company out of Columbia, South Carolina. You see the layout's very similar to the first station we built in Bradley, 2 base station. You pull in and turn around back into the fire station, bathroom, office, and a larger storage room / training room. You see the layout, the elevation of the station is very similar to the other ones we built, metal building with a standing seam metal roof. The contract in the packet has been reviewed and given approval by Chief Holmes and Derek Oliver. And Carson's looked over it as well. And like I said before, this will be the final volunteer fire station built. Project sales tax funds and will cover 99.6% of the homes in Greenwood County per the master plan.
Thank you. Any questions of council? How does this cost compare to other stations?
It's our highest one yet. Our last station that we built was on Highway 221 was $340,000. On average, we were right at $280,000 before this one. So this last one is going to push us up to $305,000 on average per station. So it's a big jump. We were kind of expecting it based on all the comments we heard, but it is more than the previous one.
And there's not any additional bells and whistles in this station compared to the others that would be driving this cost up. It's just simply supplying demand.
Right.
Okay.
Just the same exact stations as the other 2 base stations we built.
Council, do you have any questions? And there's a motion to consider the contract.
Second.
Mr. Childs makes the motion, Mr. Allison seconds. Any comments or questions? Then all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? And that is so ordered. Thank you, Josh.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is consideration of the appointment of Special Tax District Commissioner for the subdivision Grace Court Townhouses. Ms. Dorn, you want to speak to this?
I would just say that she is a resident of the community, and I would recommend to approve this appointment.
Okay. This is also in my district, and I certainly agree with that. Is there a motion that we appoint Ms. Willis to the Special Tax District for Grace Court Townhouses?
So moved, Chair.
Mr. Lane makes the motion. Ms. Spencer seconds. All in favor say aye. Aye. And it is so ordered. Thank you. Next item is an update from the county treasurer. Ms. Dorn, you're there.
I like it when Susan puts it all together, so I can just
Right.
stay up here. You should have a copy of my report at your seat. I would just point out that our auditors have completed their field work. They were in our offices for about 3 weeks. They're still reviewing our capital asset purchases, but at this time they have not brought any concerns to my attention. And we are currently working on a draft of the statements so that they can review the documents as soon as possible. In order to make sure that you have a quality report, I believe that it will probably be your December 21st meeting before we can present the final audit to you. As I reported last time, I had 2 staff members starting. They've been here for just a little over 2 weeks, and I'm very pleased with their progress. One of the staff members is responsible for our accounts payable, is also assuming responsibility for the special tax districts, and is basically working pretty independently at this time. Our other position was a financial analyst, and she is currently working with Cheryl Danis at the Public Works facility to help assume those responsibilities when she retires in January. On a positive note, Voters Registration Director notified me that the State Election Commission will be reimbursing the county for our expenses related to the County Council District 5 special primary election that was held. We were not expecting that reimbursement, so we were pleased to see that we would not have to figure out how to pay for that unbudgeted expense. We are currently at about 29% of our general fund expenditures, and we would expect to be around 33% at this point in the year. So we are all of our departments are doing a good job at maintaining their budgets. Our property taxes were, of course, just billed out in October. Collections are a little bit slower than in October 2020, but we've had a lot of questions coming to both the tax collector's office, auditors, and assessor's office related to the reassessment and changes on the bills. So I think that'll come along just fine. I'm not concerned about it. Your packet includes a chart showing where we're at in relation to our revenues and expenditures. Hospitality taxes have started to level out as I projected that they would. We are still about 5% higher than the first 4 months of the last fiscal year. As Kelly reported to you, and you saw from her chart, our local accommodations tax collections are still below where they were at pre-pandemic levels, and hopefully we will see some changes. The first 4 months of this fiscal year have yielded about a 7% increase over last fiscal year, so we are still moving in a positive direction. As one would expect, our building permits continue to be on the increase, and they are up by 53% for this period compared to last year. The good or the bad is that with increased construction costs, increased permit costs as well, because they are based on the cost of the contract. And as Josh reported at last month's meeting, the quarter's capital project sales tax revenue was down about 0.5% from the last quarter. We have collected about 46.6% of the allowed amount that we had in our projected collections, and we're about 53% through with the project period. And while you might say, well, that's 7%, Stephanie, and you told me that you still feel like we're going to collect most of it, because of the fact that these things increase over time, and we expect that our collections will continue to grow. The difference is an expected difference. We would not expect to be exactly at the same place in collections as we are in a time period. I reviewed my numbers because I stood in front of you all and talked about it last time just to be sure, and I still feel like we will collect somewhere between 95 and 99% of our anticipated revenues, barring any unexpected economic disaster. I still expect that this next quarter and the quarter following will be very positive. And finally, a transportation update. In the month of October, we had 199 total trips, which was an increase of 29 from September. I would again expect that number to grow as we have expanded the program, and I've now given Ms. Childs about 1,000 flyers, which she has given out the majority of. So we're still continuing to be excited about the progress of the transportation program. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I have a question about your grant. Hospitality, accommodations, building permit fees. The Blues fiscal year 22. We're not there yet.
You're currently in fiscal 22.
I know, but it's 2021. I assume this is looking at revenue 22.
Fiscal year 20.
We're July 1st of 21 through June 30th of 22. So we are in fiscal 22.
Okay. I'm still having trouble knowing how to read this graph.
So your 22 bar is taller than your 21 bar because we've collected more year to date.
Okay, so that's a year to
And
date?
let me further expand that. Both of these are for the first 4 months of each fiscal year. It's not all of 21 being presented.
Okay,
So we're comparing the same time period when we look at
okay. That helps.
it. Okay.
Thank you. All right, any other questions, council? Ms. Norton? Thank you, Ms. Norton. The next item D, is Resolution 2137, to approve funding for Greenwood County Public Information Officer.
Chairman and council, per the request, I have prepared a resolution to allocate funds in support of a public information officer. The funding is a compilation of, in part, from ARPA funds, and that period is through December of '24. And then for the remainder of this fiscal year, funds allocated from a grant that we received for emergency program management, and the remainder of the fund to be allocated within the Economic Development Department, where we already have funds available.
Okay.
Happy to answer any questions you have about the funding of the position.
Any questions of council? We talked about it. No questions, and if there is a motion to approve the resolution to approve funding for Greenwood County Public Information Officer.
Mr. Chairman, it would thrill me to make the motion to approve.
All right. Mr. Templeton thrillingly makes the motion.
And it would likewise thrill me to second that motion,
And
Chairman.
second by Mr. Lane. Any conversation about this thrilling event?
Mr. Chairman, I've said so much already. I don't know that I need to beat a dead horse. I just think that we have such a great story to tell in Greenwood, and we tend to be more reactive than we do proactive. So I think this would go a long way toward helping us tell that story, because we've got a lot of great stuff to tell.
Thank you, Mr. Templeton. Any other comments? Are you ready to vote? All in favor of passing the resolution, raise your hand. I have 4 votes, I think, and those opposed, and we have 2 against. The motion passes. Thank you, council. Appreciate it. Finally, item under new business is simply a first reading. Ordinance 2021-32, amending ordinance 2021-15, continuing Greenwood County's use of a fire support uniform service charge on parcels in the unincorporated area of Greenwood County and other matters relating thereunto. Ms. Penny, did you want to make any comment about this?
I do not have any comment about this, sir.
All right. That is first reading and does not require anything other than a first reading. Thank you, Ms. Dorn. Pending items. I have mentioned to council before our need to look at some of the appointments we make, specifically to the Joint Planning Commission and also to the BZA, the Board of Zoning Appeals. I have made the plea that we need to have younger, newer, maybe presence on these boards, and we have a number of people who have served for decades in these positions, and it might be time for us to consider appointing some different or younger people to serve in these important capacities. Tonight, I understand we do not have any recommendations to make, but I still make that plea to you. Concerning item C, which is the Public Library, Greenwood County Public Library Board, we have 2 appointments to be made there. One is an at-large appointment. Ms. Katie Brady has resigned. She is an at-large member of the board. And I'm going to place before council tonight the name of Mrs. Linda Kuhn to serve in this at-large capacity. And we also have a vacancy in District 5. Ms. Mary Jo Talbert has been removed. She is unable to serve in this capacity. And so I would like to say that since this appointment comes from District 5, I would suggest that we wait until the seat for District 5 is filled via the election in December, and then allow that member to have input into this appointment. Council agrees to that, then we will proceed with that assumption. So I place into consideration the name of Mrs. Linda Coon to fill the unexpired term of Mrs. Katie Bradley, which is an at-large position on the Greenwood County Library Board. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Allison makes a motion, Ms. Templeton seconds. Any questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. And that is so ordered. Thank you so much. And that concludes our business for this evening. Council, we have moved quickly through this, and I appreciate all of your participation and your participation. Yes, ma'am, go
I
right
need to
ahead.
ask one question. Will you talk with the person who will be in District 5 to kind of give him a heads up of he needs to be thinking about a person? for the
Yes,
city?
I will. We'll make sure that's done, Mr. Charles. Thank you. At this time, we'll have our district reports, and Ms. Childs, you're up first.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to send out a shout out to Amber for all of her support and her hard work, and also for scheduling the cleanup. On November the 6th, we went out to Wheatfield, cold, freezing, it was cold. It was cold that morning. And we had 10 volunteers that showed up. 16 bags were collected with 3 large tires. I think it was some kind of truck tires, I'm not sure. Also, we had volunteers over at Matt Lee's. We had 12 that showed up over there with 16 bags of trash. New Market also was a part that had 9 volunteers with 20 bags. And Kirksey Forest had 8 volunteers with 15 bags. And Amber tells me it was over 2,000 to 3,000 pounds of trash that was collected.
Wow.
In those areas. And I just want to say to all of you, hoping that you all will have a wonderful, blessed Thanksgiving. And don't forget to wear your mask. Social distancing if you're on the inside. But if you're on the outside, I guess you can kind of go solo. Okay. So happy Thanksgiving to everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Childs. Mr. Allison, District 2.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A report from 96, but I would also like to just wish everyone a very happy and safe Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Ms. Spencer, District 3.
I want to thank all the volunteers also for Wheatfield is also my district along with Country Homes area, Parkland Place, and Tyler Church Road. We picked up trash in that area on Saturday. It was a nice day. We really enjoyed ourselves out there. So I just want to thank all volunteers because I had church members out there. And anybody else that want to volunteer anytime, to schedule to clean up in my area, you are more than welcome to come out and help us clean up. Also, in my closing, it's easy to get caught up. I know next week is Thanksgiving Day. It's easy to get caught up in the whirlwind that is Thanksgiving Day. The menu is planned, the dinner is served, the decorations are beautiful, and the table is set. It seems like the only time we get to reflect on the day might be at night after everyone has gone home. Gratitude is when memory is stored in the heart and not in the mind. Be present in all things and thankful for all things. Let us remember all families during this season, especially those who have lost loved ones. Happy Thanksgiving to District 3 and the Greenwood community.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate that. Mr. Templeton, District 6.
No report, Mr. Chairman. I would like to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving like everyone else. We are so blessed and have so much to be thankful for. And then I just have a curiosity thing, and it's the 2 gentlemen right here in the middle. One's been furiously taking notes all night, and the old-fashioned way with a pencil. And the other one's been steadily typing them out on his phone. So I got to figure this is some class project, and I'm just curious as to what we're doing. So,
we actually attend Lander University. I'm a junior and he's a senior. This is actually part of our political science class assignment, is to come to a local meeting and take notes on how it works and the different interactions and the different reports that get presented. So it's been pretty interesting.
It's funny when he said, like, if he was a teacher, he'd tell us to go hold around.
Because y'all were still, like I said, you were steady getting after the notes, and he was typing into his phone. I didn't want to put you guys on the spot, but I will tell you that y'all picked a great meeting to come to because we're out of here at a decent time. That is my report.
Thank you, Mr. Silver. Mr. Lane, District 7.
Yeah, Chairman, I was well in District 7. I'm gonna wear two hats here tonight because over the past year, I started thinking a couple of months ago about some of the great things that I felt that the county had done, particularly over the past year, and investments that this council had made. And so it kind of struck me that, when those great things happen, that maybe more businesses should join in county efforts to help. So I'm going to take my county council hat off now and put my Duke Energy hat on. So what I'm really proud to tell you is that I've secured some funding that's going to align with some of what we've done. So over the next several weeks, I mentioned some of this to you, Chairman, earlier, Duke Energy will contribute $25,000 to fire and EMS that Derek and Steve Holmes, with the county manager's approval, will determine how best that money should be utilized. I'm assuming with some equipment needs. We will also give an additional, I'm sorry I'm so hoarse, forgive me, an additional $10,000 to support our mass transit effort so that, you like that, don't you, Miss Eden? So that we can provide free travel vouchers to anyone who needs it.
Thank you.
And I'm checking my list off here. You'll like this one too, Miss Edith and Miss Spencer. We'll give $10,000 to support Boys and Girls Club to add to the work that's been done, the work that's been done at the Teen Center.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good job.
We will give $10,000 to the Greenwood Chamber of Commerce to support the workforce development initiatives that we've been working on with Greenwood County. Let's see what else. Around Thanksgiving, we always focus on food insecurities, and helping to feed people. So we'll give $5,000 to the food bank, the Piedmont Agency on Aging for mobile meal distribution, $5,000 to Pathway House for their feeding insecurities, and $5,000 to the Lambda Student Food Bank that I didn't know existed until about several months ago. And what else? $10,000 to support nursing scholarships to Lambda University, because there's a lot of need for that now coming out of COVID. And $10,000 to Piedmont Technical College to support Models Academy, which is Steve Coleman's great program that takes young men and points them in the right direction. So that's all I'm doing.
It sounds like Christmas, not Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it may be Christmas. So, but seriously, and I thank council because, it really got me thinking in that regard back about 3 months ago. So I started, looking to see where we might be able to do that, and happy that we can. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Lane. Wow. Christmas has come early. I want to talk to you later about a couple of little things.
You want a Red Ryder BB gun?
Yeah, maybe a little wagon.
She tried. I said the same.
What?
She tried.
She tried.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am?
before you, get started, I'd like to do something that I should have done earlier. I'd like to say, thank you to Teresa Griffin and to Christine Moore for District One
Good,
for attending tonight.
thank you. We hope they'll come back
I hope so.
anytime. Well, as council has already alluded to, it is Thanksgiving next week, and we're all, I'm sure, if we're honest, have much to be grateful for. And it is a time to reflect on many blessings that we have received. And it's to acknowledge, I think, the fact that we, of all people, are wonderfully blessed. I don't know if you noticed today in the Index Journal, Dr. John Eichelberger elucidated some of the benefits that come from embracing an attitude of gratitude. He reminds us that gratitude basically has two components. One is obviously an affirmation of goodness. There are good things in this world, and frankly, we have received many of them. And the second component is recognition that this source of goodness comes from outside of ourselves. We have received much, to be sure, from others, as Mr. Lane has demonstrated here tonight, generously giving away resources at his disposal. But more accurately, all good gifts come from the generous hand of God, who freely pours out his blessings in abundance. Gratitude, as Dr. Eichelberger says, encourages all of us to appreciate the gifts we have received and to also pass them on to others. So I challenge each of you on council, take the time this year to acknowledge what you are grateful for. And as you do, remember those who are less fortunate by giving generously, sharing with them out of your abundance. Because truly to whom much is given, much is required. Happy Thanksgiving. We are adjourned.
I had to look up elucidated.
Again?
I feel like I was, why don't you just say to make clear?